I was on a peace mission in the Middle East with the former Archbishop of Canterbury, William Carey, and we were meeting with all of the leaders, or religious leaders from the Jewish side and the Palestinian side. It was a tough 5 or 6 days, very tough. We were exhausted. And the last but one day, we were meeting with one of the 4 founders of Hamas. His name was Sheikh Talal. Solidly built man. He'd lost several members of his family and was very courteous, and he served us a beautiful lunch. And I was just one of the 5, and the Archbishop carried the lead, so we would just listen. But before any session was over, the Archbishop would give the 5 of us a chance to ask one question. And the Sheikh had all of his cohorts around him. I asked him a question, and I didn't like the answer. I said, Sheikh, you and I might never meet again, and you may not like my saying this, but I really don't like your answer to my question. I said, but can I say something to you, sir? I said, 5,000 years ago, not far from where you and I are sitting, was a mountain. And a man by the name of Abraham went up that mountain and took his son up to offer his son as a sacrifice. Do you remember the story? He said, yes. I said, please do me a favor. Let's not argue now about which son that was. I said, let's agree it was Abraham and his son. He said, okay. I said, he takes his son up that mountain, and he sees it as a test of his faith before God, whether he's willing to give up his son. And the axe is about to come down on the son, and God stops that arm. Do you remember the story? He said, yes. I said, do you remember what God said to him? Sheikh Talal just stared at me. I said, do you remember that? He said, no. I said, you have it in the scriptures. God said, stop. Stop, Abraham. I myself will provide. He said, yes. I said, Sheikh, very close to where you and I are sitting, 2,000 years ago, God kept that promise. He took his own son up that hill, and this time the axe did not stop. He just stared at me. I said, Sheikh, until you and I receive the son that God has provided, we will be offering our own sons and daughters on the battlefields of this world for land, position, power, ownership, and prestige. Silence in the room, full of smoke. The Archbishop said, well, I guess we can now go back to our hotels. I said, oh, brother, I've blown it big time. So we were walking, and just as I was about to go down the stairs, the Archbishop put his arm around me and said, thank you, Ravi. So that was of God. I said, I sure hope so. I went down, and the Archbishop was the guest of honor, so we were all getting into our car on the other side. The Sheikh followed me. He came over to me and he took me by the shoulders, and I thought, farewell world, it's been good. You know. He said, Mr. Zacharias. I said, yes, sir. He just stared at me, kissed me on both sides of the face. He said, you're a good man. I hope I see you again someday. Ladies and gentlemen, in this book is a story. It's a story that is historically sustained on the crucifixion of Christ.